So far, we understand what strings are, how to declare and create strings, and how to do a few operations. So now we're going to go into doing more string operations, and we're going to start off like quite light. So allow me to just get rid of this for now. And I'm going to declare two strings. I'll actually just declare another one here, and I'll call it maybe text2, right? So we have text and text2, and I'll call this programming. And from this string, so for us to start with string operations, the first thing is, of course, we declare the strings and initialize them. So now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to try and concatenate the string. So the word is concatenation. So it's called concatenation. And concatenation is just a fancy word for adding strings using the plus operator. So how we do this is we can just go, and the first thing we can do, we can just actually add them directly inside our print statement. And you can say text, which is the first string that we have there. Then we use this plus sign. We just say text plus, then we'll say text2, text plus text2. Now if we do this and we run this program, you see it tells us Python programming. But now the mistake that you've already noticed here is that there's no space between Python and programming. So to add that space, what you do is you add an empty, or rather a space string here. So what you do is you're going to add your speech marks, then you add a single space in between, and after that you'll add another plus sign there. So with this, if we hit save and run this again, you see now we have Python programming, but there's a space in between. And that is ideally how you concatenate strings. After you've done this concatenation, the other thing that you can do is what you call repetition. So in repetition, that is, there are certain times where you'd like to print the same string multiple times, right? So for example, if I want to print the word Python multiple times, what I do is I'll go ahead and say just print. Then I'll take the word, let's say the variable text, and I'll use a multiplication sign. So for multiplication, we use this asterisk sign. Then I'll just say multiply by 3, like that. And then if I run this code, you see we get Python 3 times. We have Python, Python, Python. So this is what we refer to as repetition. And I'm going to add, I'll just add the comment here and call it repetition. So we've seen the two main operations, concatenation and repetition. Now, I want you to take note of this concatenation. As you can see it here, in case you have a really long string, it's going to be really tedious to do this sort of concatenation. And we're going to look at how you can be able to handle this in probably the next video. But the next thing that I want us to do from here is how you can be able to check the length of a string. So whenever you have a string, for example, you have this long string here called email message. It has so many words, but you want to know what is the entire length of the string. To understand the entire length of a string is really important, because there are certain operations that you want to do, and you want to understand how much information, or how many, let's say, data points that you're dealing with. But also you just want to know what is the size of this message, or you could be writing a program that you want to restrict how much, let's say, the length of a sentence could be. I want you to think of it this way: whenever you're typing in a message, for example, on TikTok, or TikTok comment, or you want to send a simple tweet on X, whenever you're trying to post, there's a limitation. Nowadays, there's, of course, X has sort of changed that, or expanded at least the limits to that, but there's usually a limitation on how many characters you can be able to write. So if you're building a similar thing, then you need to be able to restrict someone how to do that, or you need to check whether they've reached the 1,000 character limit that you had given them. Then after that, you tell them not to do that. So how you check for this is you'll go ahead and let's just print it out first. So we're going to just print the length of a string, and I would like us to pick any string. For example, let's pick email message. So you have email message. Let me just close this. So it should be email message. And what you do for you to get the length is use the len method. So get len, then you enclose the variable name all the string inside the len. So if we run this code here, I'll clear this and run. You see we get 61. So it is telling us that the length of this email message is 61. By 61 we mean 61 characters. So if you count all these characters, they should add up to 61. This we can do the same for, instead of let's say text, and if we run for text is the word Python. It is telling us that the length of the word Python is 6, and you can go ahead and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now I want you to note that checking the length of a string is also different from when you are doing indexing. Indexing starts from 0, but when you're checking for the size of a string, then you have to count 1, 2, 3 all through. Just normal the normal way that you'd be able, rather, that you'd use to count things. And that is basically it on string operations. Now I want us to go ahead and look at an extra thing on strings, and this is what we refer to as string methods. So string methods, these are basically methods that we use to help us to manipulate strings and to understand a number of things about strings. Len, that we've used to check for the length of a string, is also a method that we can use. But some of the other common string methods here, and we can use any of the other strings that for example, let's use even greetings as our string, as our guinea pig string now. So we're going to just print, then we'll check the variable name. The variable name here is called greetings. So let's check greetings, and what we're going to do is we'll start with the first one. So you can just say greetings.upper, and if we run this, you see we get hello champ, but now it is in uppercase. So this is this is the first string method that you can work with. The other one that you can do, actually allow me to just use this same line of code to just change. You can also use .lower, so you can say string.lower, and if you run this, you see you get hello champ, but everything is in lowercase. There's also another one that is called string.title. And if you do string.title and we run this, you see you get again hello champ, but now it is in form of a title. The other one that you can do is you can strip. So you can say greetings.strip. And this strip method is really, really important. Actually, all these methods are important because we're going to be manipulating and dealing with strings a lot more, and these methods are going to be important in that aspect. So if you use strip, what strip does is that it removes the spaces. So if we run this, you see we have hello champ, but it basically strips off any extra spaces that might have existed there. There is also, for example, if you want to replace the word or an aspect of a string somewhere. For example, in this case, we have hello champ. We can try and replace the word champ. How we can do that? We can just say, again, same thing, but let me just write everything as fresh here. So we can just say greetings dot replace, and we can specify replacing. So we can say we want to replace maybe champ with another word, like let's say Python, right? Yeah, let's say Python. So you say like hello Python. So if we do this and we save and run our code, you see now we get hello Python instead of hello champ, which is what we had before. In that case, we use the replace method. The other one that you can do is when you want to split a string, for that you just say print then greetings dot strip. So strip is the other method here. Now what this is going to do is that it's going to strip the entire string, and what you get in the end is we've saved this one here. So strings.strip, basically how it not strip, should be split. Split here. I was wondering what I was doing. So if we use split, you see it splits the words or the characters in that string into individual characters, and it saves them in a list. Now, a list is a data structure, but we're going to understand more on what this is and what it means in a future video. We're going to talk about a number of these data structures. But this is what split does. There are many of these other methods. So allow me to just quickly write some of these methods that we've talked about to allow you to, in case you need to look at them during your own time. So the first one we talked about is upper. This is for when you want to print something in uppercase. The other one that we talked about is dot lower. And dot lower is when you want to print the string in, to lowercase. And the last one that we talked about here is greetings dot we talked about strip and greetings.title. And you again, so remember, it is a method. So when you're dealing with a method, you have to call it, use this set of parentheses at the end. We're going to understand more on how to build these methods in a future video, but for now, let's take everything as it is right now. So these are the string methods that we've talked about. They are really, really important, and they're going to be important in future. So if you need to take a screenshot or just write everything down, this is what we've talked about so far. So if you run this again, this is everything that you'll be getting as a result of this. The other thing that you can also go ahead and do is you can check for substrings. So what is a substring? A substring, like the word suggests, is a piece of a string, like a slice or a slice of a string, basically. And for a substring, for example, if you have an entire string, like let's say we have this, let's say we have a string like email message, right? So how you deal with that with that one, I'll just write the comment here and I'll call it substring. So how you get a substring to begin with is, for example, when you did the slicing earlier on here, you can slice a string to get a substring, right? There are many other ways to get that, but when you have a string like email message and you want to check whether there's a word that exists in that string. For example, let's say we're looking for the word email. So how we'll do that is we're going to, I'll just print this out again, just easily. Then we'll check the word that we're looking for is email. So we'll just say email in. So in is the method that we, or the keyword that we use to check. So we're basically asking our Python program, do we have the word email in this specific variable, this specific string? And as you can see here, if you recall from what we did when you talked about variables, is that we talked about booleans and what a boolean data type is. So a boolean is a true or false. So in this case, the result that we should get from here is whether is it true that email is a substring of the email message, or is it false. So if we run this code, you'll see that we get true in the end here, which means that email is a word or a substring that exists in this bigger string that we called email underscore message. If you want to check for whether a word does not exist or a substring does not exist in the string, again, like you've already guessed this, how you do that is you first of all type in the word. So let's say the word is like Kenya, then just say Kenya not in. Then you specify the string that or rather the string that you're trying to check for. So in this case, again, we still get a boolean as the answer here. So if we run this, you see we still get true as the boolean, right? So if we say if Kenya in, let's just use in for now, you see we get false as the answer. So here, let's just go with not in. And we run this, you see we get true. So in this case, the answers that we're getting are booleans. Here we got true, and for this one, we also got true because Kenya is not a word that exists in this string, or is not a substring of this bigger string. And that is basically it on string methods and string operations. There's still a lot more about strings that we're going to be learning. We're going to learn many of the other things as we look at some of the more advanced concepts in Python. But as of now, you should be good with strings. There's only one concept that we need to talk about in strings, and that is string formatting. But I believe that this video has become long enough. So we're going to look at string formatting in the next video.